Trapped in a hurricane. Trapped by an avalanche. Trapped on open water. When severe weather strikes, there's nowhere to hide.
Go, 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 go!
These are the stories from people who work in extreme weather.
I just lost a big window.
It was just like a bomb went off.
And nobody is coming to save you.
And the storms they'll never forget.
Wham! Crack! Bang! Bang! Bang!
Holy we're going to die.
Plus, the how and why behind the world's worst weather.
Mother Nature is one mother.
For the brave men and women who make their living in the face of wild weather, fear and danger are part of the job.
On our doorstep, we're gonna try to keep it at bay.
But when you're trapped and there's nowhere to run, it's never just another day at the office. September 2014, Hurricane Odile slams Mexico's Baja Peninsula, near the popular resort town of Cabo San Lucas. Odile packs wind speeds of over 140 miles an hour, strong enough to lift people and even cars off the ground. Those who can flee the rampaging storm, but a few, like Josh Morgerman, race towards it.
I've been chasing hurricanes since I was basically a kid. There's no way to describe why violent weather just gets me so excited, why I feel this need to just go hunting after it at great personal risk. Every hemisphere, north, south, east, west, wherever the big storms are happening, the really scary ones, I'm there.
He thought he'd seen it all. But even Josh was not prepared for what happened. The night Hurricane Odile struck Cabo San Lucas.
I've been inside the jaws of about 35 or 40 hurricanes. This day was one of the worst.
Hurricanes are the deadliest weather events Mother Nature can dish out. They're rotating tropical storms with winds of at least 74 miles an hour. Each year, hurricanes wipe out entire coastal areas and kill thousands of people.
A hurricane requires several ingredients in order to form. The main ingredient here is that the sea surface temperatures need to be at least 26.5 degrees centigrade. Once these warm temperatures occur, the surface begins to evaporate and the water condenses into clouds. Because of this condensation, heat is released into the atmosphere. This is warming the ocean even further and requiring it to evaporate more, creating more clouds, eventually into severe thunderstorms. With all of these thunderstorms that are now popping up, they begin to rotate in a counterclockwise direction. At this stage, a hurricane is born.
At home in Los Angeles, Josh tracks a storm gathering over the Pacific Ocean, just southwest of Mexico.
I was not initially very interested in it. The computer model suggested it was gonna miss the west coast of Mexico, that it was gonna stay offshore. So I was basically just kind of ignoring it. But then as the days passed, the computer model started to shift closer and closer, and they showed maybe it actually was gonna threaten. Then the day before, I realized, oh boy, I gotta get down there fast.
We gotta go.
My cameraman and I flew down to Cabo San Lucas late in the afternoon that the hurricane hit. We were one of the very last planes to land before the airport closed down. That's how close we cut it. The second we landed, it was almost like the hurricane started to hit. There was a heavy rain band move through and strong winds, and I was like, wow, I can't believe we even landed. Hurricane was already moving in on the city. I was a hurricane chaser. I want to get right in the center of the hurricane, right where the eye is going to cross the coast. But we were trying to kind of anticipate where we thought that center was going to cross the coast.
Hola, it's under Josh Morgan, checking in.
And that brought us to a hotel just east of downtown Cabo San Lucas. And that's where we set up shop.
Meet downstairs, say 30 for a drink? Yeah, sure.
And as it turned out, it was a bullseye hit.
It was the prime area and the prime ingredients and the prime time for this hurricane. September is the most active season for hurricanes to form. So with very high sea surface temperatures, well above 26.5 degrees centigrade, Hurricane Odile managed to go from a tropical storm all the way to a Category 4 hurricane in a very short amount of time.
Category 4 winds are powerful enough to uproot trees, tear roofs off houses, and blow windows out of buildings.
Very late in the afternoon, it started to get really stormy. We just kind of drove around, just took some shots of the wind blowing. As it started to get dark, the weather started to get worse. It started to feel kind of dangerous.
By 7 p.m., winds are blowing at more than 50 miles an hour, threatening to snap palm trees in half.
This was a pretty strong hurricane coming, and we decided it was probably best to retreat back to the hotel. As it turned out, we were retreating right to the bullseye.
Hey, grab that ring.
Josh and his cameraman hole up in the lobby to ride out the storm.
Keep it at bay. It's gonna get a little crazy, so we're gonna try to keep everyone down low.
As the evening wore on, the wind got stronger. It was like around 9 or 10 that it started to feel really serious. The whole building just started to rattle, and there were just crashing sounds outside. What that is flying debris. So as other buildings start to blow apart, that stuff blows around, and when it hits the building you're in, you hear it. It's like crashing sounds.
The wind rages and threatens to blow a set of glass doors off its hinges.
The front doors of the lobby just blew open, and the hotel manager put a sofa in front of it. And that just wasn't heavy enough. And throughout the course of the next hour, we kept piling furniture against those doors. Another sofa, a couple of chairs. And we could not keep the wind out.
Can we get some help over?
Once that wind gets in the building, it can actually start doing internal destruction. So it's very important to keep it out. And that's why we were working so hard to try somehow to keep those doors closed.
It's no use. Hurricane Odile sweeps the barricade aside, allowing wind and rain to rush into the lobby.
Those doors blew open, and the wall on the other side blew out, and actually the wind was moving in a straight line. Basically, the lobby became a wind tunnel.
The problem with Odile was that along the Baja California Peninsula, many people did not take this storm seriously. Hurricanes that form in this area tend to be pushed out to sea. Unfortunately, the National Hurricane Center relayed this information saying, "We're not worried, we are not concerned about this storm at the moment." And because of this, warnings were completely canceled. It wasn't until about 24 hours prior to Odile making landfall that the warnings started to go up. By the time the warnings were out, it was game over.
For 2 hours, winds hammer the lobby, terrorizing guests and staff. An unexpected calm settles over the hotel.
It just got really quiet all of a sudden. That was the eye of the hurricane. The exact center of a hurricane is called the eye. It's a circular area and it's calm. Now, the worst part of the hurricane, the most violent winds, are in a ring around that eye. That's called the eye wall. So when you get into the eye, you're halfway through the hurricane, only halfway. You have the other half coming. So during the eye, it calmed down, and I walked outside in the parking lot, and I was just shocked by the destruction.
This building really took a beating. This was a scary storm.
The outside of the hotel just looked like piranhas had attacked it. The parking lot was just covered in debris. Cars were smashed just from falling branches. It was a mess.
Despite the destruction, Josh knows the worst is yet to come.
You never know how long that calm is gonna last, and that creates this weird uncertainty.
The eye's passing and we're going back into the hurricane.
When those winds come back on the backside of the hurricane, they come back fast, and you have very little time to take cover.
September 2014, Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. Hurricane chaser Josh Morgerman is trapped inside a hotel as a deadly storm literally tears the building apart.
The hurricane's coming in right here.
We're in the backside of the hurricane, and the wind is really, really roaring. I'm just standing there, and all of a sudden, boom. The only way I could describe it was just like a bomb went off. A whole glass wall of the lobby just exploded in the wind. I mean, exploded. Holy I don't think I've ever been so surprised or caught off guard in any hurricane I've been in. I've been in so many hurricanes, but I've never just seen such incredible just destruction happen in an instant like that. Suddenly, glass debris flying everywhere. My legs were covered in blood. Got my leg. We realized that we can't stay in that lobby. It's just turning into a wind tunnel with just like this debris, like just flying around, smashing into the walls. I mean, it was like, whoa. So we ran into the office, which was next to us. We shut the doors. And then I realized, okay, we're in trouble. The office is all glass windows facing the wind, and they're just heaving. You could just like literally see the glass pulsing. There's nothing to hide under. There's nowhere to take cover. We were basically rats in a death trap. We couldn't stay in that office. And I remember we opened that door and the wind was just roaring through it. And I remember sort of like, you know, just counting to 3 and then just running. The hotel manager and I dove under a desk, at the reception desk. I mean, it was just literally, it was like pure instinct at this point. Like I wasn't even thinking. I was pretty freaked out. And I've been in a lot of hurricanes, and when I'm scared, it's serious. The wind was just blowing through, and it was tearing away the ceiling, the walls. Just debris flying, smashing into the walls at incredible speeds. The force of the wind was so great that you could just, you could feel the walls shaking. At that point, I started not to trust the building. I started to, wonder if this whole thing wasn't gonna come crashing down on us. We needed to somehow get out of there and get into an interior hallway. Unfortunately, to do that, we'd have to run across the lobby, which had become a wind tunnel. The floor was slippery. I totally wiped out. We were lucky, we dodged the flying debris and we got into a stairwell and then we felt safe.
Josh knows the stairwell in the building's interior is one of the safest places to be during the hurricane.
It's usually a little more structurally solid. Once we got there, I felt like, okay, we made it.
What made Hurricane Odile so destructive was not only was it a Category 4 at peak strength, it was the fact that residents and even visitors to the island had very little preparation time. In many cases, they took refuge in their hotels and their resort areas, which are not built to withstand these winds. And this is why we saw immense damage.
So once we made it into that stairwell, because the destruction was everywhere, at that point, the hurricane was still going full throttle, and you just wondered, God, when was this thing gonna end? Finally, the wind started to decrease just a little bit.
Wow. Get a load of this.
We lost a lot of equipment. We were both like bleeding and just kind of banged up a little bit, but I was just so glad he was okay and we were okay.
We survived it, but the hotel didn't.
In the end, Hurricane Odile claimed the lives of 18 people and caused well over $1 billion in damage.
The lessons that we take away from Hurricane Odile are that we're human. We can't forecast perfectly where a hurricane is going to go. The biggest mistake that we made was that the National Hurricane Center did say and relay the information to Baja California that Odile was going to stay far away from land. Instead, it made a direct hit.
Chasing hurricanes comes with fear. That's part of it. You're always like a little scared. But Odile was one of the few times where I just felt like, wow, everything is out of control. It was just this visceral fear, and I felt that very few times in my many years of chasing. That feeling of being trapped, I'll never forget that. It was a day that weather changed my life.
When extreme weather strikes, its aftermath can be catastrophic. Towns wiped out, lives lost. Trapped inside the jaws of a hurricane, the best defense is to take cover and weather the storm. But sometimes, riding out a savage storm can leave you in the direct path of a totally different catastrophe. Mount Logan, North America's second highest peak. In Canada's frozen Arctic, it stands supreme. On these icy slopes, wind and cold team up to intensify the deadly effects of winter weather. The mountain's ice and snow have never melted. Severe snowstorms can strike its peak at any time of year. But despite advancements in weather science, predicting these storms isn't easy. The last thing you want on Mount Logan is to be trapped there.
The mountains are also a hard place to observe the weather because it changes so dramatically from the valley to the top, and we only usually have one observing site anywhere near it. So we will miss things that are high up in the mountains or in a valley away from where the weather stations are.
For alpine adventurers who dare to scale its peak, volatile Arctic weather can quickly turn Mount Logan into a frozen grave.
I travel around the world and I climb mountains in remote locations. I've climbed in Iran and Iraq. I've climbed all over South America and Asia. I'm the only Canadian that's climbed Everest without oxygen. I love challenging the outdoors.
Laval Saint-Germain has conquered the highest peaks on 6 of the world's 7 continents. But in 2003, an attempt to summit Mount Logan brought him to the brink of death. The sky is clear as Laval and his climbing partner touch down on the glacier at the base of Mount Logan, the launching pad for their ascent up the mountain.
I've climbed all over the world and I'll never forget first seeing Mount Logan. It is very intimidating. It's one of the largest mountains on Earth when it comes to surface area. It stands up high above all the peaks around it. Big rock faces with ice falls hanging off, and you're constantly seeing avalanches even as you fly in. In Logan, of course, it's the biggest considerations are rockfall and avalanche hazard because you're climbing in serious avalanche terrain. And it's extremely remote.
Once an avalanche stops, the snow settles like concrete, making it nearly impossible to move. More than 90% of avalanche victims survive if dug out within 15 minutes. Anytime after that, survival rates drop dramatically. Avalanches kill more than 150 people worldwide each year. Most are snowmobilers, skiers, and snowboarders. Laval spent months preparing for what would be a grueling expedition to the top of the mountain.
Preparation for high altitude mountaineering, like Mount Logan, where it's extremely cold, it's equipment is key. And you have to make sure you have warm footwear, warm sleeping bags. You have to have the proper gear. You can be climbing at minus 35 degrees and sweating profusely, but as soon as you stop, you can, within minutes, become hypothermic.
But being prepared means they have more than 100 pounds of gear, too much to haul up the mountain at once.
When you do these remote, big climbs, you're on your own, and it's a real commitment. I mean, nowadays, obviously, we have satellite phones. We can call for help. We can call for a pickup, so you're not quite as exposed as you used to be. But it's not simply arriving at the base of the mountain and climbing to the top, skiing back down or walking back down and coming out again. It's over 100-pound backpacks, so heavy that you can't climb with them. So what you end up doing is you end up yo-yoing up the mountain. So you'll carry gear up to a certain point, leave it there, come back down, sleep at your tent. Next morning, pack up everything, weather permitting, and climb up to where you left the gear before. You camp there, and you just keep doing this up and down. So you end up climbing the mountain 3 times, probably, on most climbs, because you just have too much equipment. But you need that equipment, because you need that food and that fuel and that cold weather gear to climb it.
There's no ideal time to scale Mount Logan. Extreme weather has stranded many climbers atop its icy ridges. Strong winds packed with moisture collect over the North Pacific, then swing inland, where they're forced up Mount Logan's 6-mile-high peak.
As we move up through the atmosphere, it will get colder and colder and colder. Up in mountains, the precipitation that might be rain down low will be snow up high. And also, because it's cold up there, it will stay longer, so we see more snow on the mountains.
Laval and his partner begin their climb up Logan's treacherous icy slopes, sidestepping deadly crevasses that they could easily fall into. They're just halfway up the mountain, still days from the summit, when bad weather rolls in.
It started to snow heavily. We were at a point where we had taken just enough food and fuel to last us 1 or 2 nights.
Weather's getting worse, it's picking up. We're gonna have to make camp for the night. Let's head up that way.
We realized that the snow was coming down so heavily, we're in such an exposed, avalanche-prone area that we couldn't go back down to get our stuff. So we were stuck in the tent.
Avalanches are most common during and immediately after a fresh snowfall. The savage storm has put them in the path of one of nature's deadliest weapons.
We had enough food and fuel for a few days, but it was snowing so heavily that every 2 hours we'd have to take turns going out and shoveling off the outside of the tent because we were getting buried in snow.
Machine gun winds rattle the tent. If it folds under the weight of the snow, they'll be critically exposed to the elements.
The walls slowly collapse and we shovel it off, and they slowly collapse and we shovel it off. And then you're covered in snow, and then you have to come into the tent and you brush the snow off your body so that you don't bring this wet snow into the tent, which is really dangerous because if your sleeping bag gets wet, it's not going to dry ever up there.
Trapped for 24 hours, the savage storm continues to bear down on them. They're cold, hungry, and running out of fuel for their camp stove. Without it, they won't survive.
We use a mountaineering stove. It creates a small flame, and you pack an aluminum pot with snow and you melt it, and that gives you drinking water. Either that or you don't have any water. The stove is critical.
Perched on an exposed ledge, Laval and his partner are in danger. They know an avalanche could strike at any time, sweeping them over the slope and down the mountainside. They have no choice but to try and wait out the storm.
This is eating at me. We're in an area where an avalanche could have been triggered above the tent. And of course, it could be triggered by us as we leave the tent. So we were stuck there.
Mount Logan, an icy peak in Canada's frozen Arctic. High in the clouds, blizzards and severe snowstorms strike without warning. And cold is a constant threat. In high winds, 0 degrees Fahrenheit feels like minus 30. Laval St. Germain and his climbing partner are trapped on the mountain, locked in a battle against extreme weather. As powerful winds from the Pacific batter their tent with blowing snow.
Walks slowly collapse and we shovel it off, and they slowly collapse and we shovel it off. We kept on doing this, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat.
They're low on food and fuel to melt snow for water. They have no choice. It's move or die.
We're at a point where we can't go any higher because we don't have enough food and fuel to go higher. There's no way we can go to the summit and back down the other side. We made the decision to try and go down for our food and our fuel.
But to do that, they make their predicament even worse.
We left the tent together, and I was very nervous about it. I was extremely gripped that we were going to cause an avalanche.
When snow falls to the ground, it quickly bonds under its own weight to form a solid mass. But sometimes, new snowfall doesn't bond to this hard, icy layer below. When that bonding fails, watch out.
The trigger mechanism is just that extra bit of snow added on the top, so it destabilizes, and you could get an avalanche.
Laval and his partner continue the dangerous downward climb to retrieve their food and fuel.
We got into a situation into some extreme winds, and I've been in some fairly strong winds, especially in the Himalayas, but it's the strongest winds I've ever seen.
Wind and fresh snow. It's the perfect recipe for a deadly high-altitude avalanche. They choose each step with great care in the blowing snow. It would be easy to fall off the edge of the mountain, never to be heard from again. They tread cautiously, knowing they'll pay for a single wrong step with their lives. The vibrations from a lone hiker can cause the top layer of snow to slide, setting off an avalanche.
The distance that we had to travel, if I remember, was maybe 400 meters, which is not particularly far, but it's very far when half of that is uphill. You're at this point almost petrified that the slope's gonna go. I put my foot down in the slope 50 centimeters in front of me, so just a couple of feet in front of my boot.
Laval falls back as Mount Logan begins to roar.
The entire slope just cut, sheared off, and the entire mountain just fell all the way down 9,000 feet. It was reverberating. You could feel it moving, like you could feel it in your boots. It was terrifying. I was within 50 centimeters of losing my life.
On these icy slopes, there's zero margin for error. They know they've pushed their luck as far as it will go.
This biggest avalanche that I've ever seen. And yeah, it was particularly frightening. At that point, went back to the tent. And we just waited it out. I felt trapped. Once you're up high on the east ridge of Mount Logan, you might as well be on the moon. You're on your own. It would be just about impossible to pick you off and rescue you if something went wrong.
Trapped on the mountain, they're sitting ducks. As their terror grows, they listen intently for rumbles in the distance. A second avalanche could trigger at any time.
Now we're in this scenario where we can't go any higher because we don't have any fuel. So you can't live without fuel in a mountain because you have to melt snow, and as you know, you need water. And we can't go any lower because of the risk of starting another avalanche and being swept off the mountain. It was a feeling of doom. It was a damned if you do and damned if you don't scenario. We just about got killed in that.
Days after his near-death experience, Lavelle and his climbing partner reached the top of Mount Logan via the East Ridge. The first time it's ever been accomplished.
When we got to the summit of Mount Logan, it was incredible. After weeks of hardship and freezing and struggling and you know, avalanches and ice falls and yeah, it's a fantastic feeling at the top. I had tears in my eyes.
But for Lavelle, reaching the summit was also a humbling experience. Mount Logan still haunts him.
I've spent my life in the outdoors, but just another reminder of how quickly things can change because of weather and how insignificant we are. If that slope would have slid 50 centimeters higher, I would have just been like a pebble in it, like a grain of sand going down the mountain. Nature is, it's spectacular, it's beautiful, but it's got a real bite to it, for sure.
When Mother Nature unleashes her awesome power, people are at the mercy of the wildest weather under the sun. You can run, you can hide, but sometimes you have no choice but to charge head first into the storm. Summer weather in South Florida is typically hot and humid. Daily thunderstorms are common.
Florida's coast is so volatile for storms mostly because of its location. It's in the tropical regions, and because of this, we have a lot of fuel from the ocean. A lot of heat that's been stored within the ocean. This fuels thunderstorm activity, particularly for hurricanes.
Thunderstorms may be common, but they're never simple. The jet stream, a fast-flowing air current about 6 miles above the Earth, drives tropical storms west to east. From the coast out to the ocean. These winds are especially dangerous for boaters, who run the risk of being pushed miles out into the stormy Atlantic waters.
I've basically grown up on the water. I've been on boats my whole life. I've been fishing basically since I could hold a fishing pole, so maybe like 3 years old.
And for me, it started as a teenager, and I haven't stopped since. One of the things I do as a professional sport fisherman is film all my adventures and post them on my YouTube channel titled Land Shark Fishing.
Brooke, how are we doing over here?
We're looking good. Everything is set up.
We've probably spent thousands, if not tens of thousands of hours, would you say?
Oh yeah, a lot of hours on the water.
What's going on, guys? Victor here, and today I am with Brooke. Say hi.
Hey guys, what's up?
And today's video is gonna be very different from what you guys have seen before.
Weather in South Florida can actually change really fast. So it's normally typically calm, but then during the summer, you have crazy thunderstorms and rainstorms that can come in. They can surprise you. You really have to keep an eye out on the forecast, but then at the same time, you can be looking at the forecast and it could say 0 chance of rain, and then in the afternoon, you get a crazy thunderstorm that comes in out of nowhere.
June 28, 2013 was one of those days. Without warning, a violent thunderstorm appeared out of nowhere. Before the day was done, Victor Lubin and Brooke Christ would find themselves trapped on open water in a near-death battle against the sea.
Brooke and I have seen hundreds of storms on the water. The bulk of the storms that we witness, they come and go. They're generally not that threatening.
And a lot of times you can see them coming and you can plan ahead for them. But this storm was unlike any other. Normally, I'm someone who's not really afraid on the water, but I was definitely afraid with this storm. This was probably the first time I ever thought that I might actually die out on the boat.
June 28, 2013, Jupiter, Florida. Weather conditions are ideal for a day of kite fishing.
Kite fishing employs a kite to get your baits up on top of the water. It allows them to give a frantic presentation, and it attracts big predatory fish.
Typically, if you're going kite fishing, you want a little bit of wind, because if you don't have any wind, then you can't get your kite up. And this day, it was gonna be a little windy, so we knew we were gonna be able to get the kite up.
Hope the weather clears up a little bit.
Yeah, honestly, I think that we should be fine.
There weren't any thunderstorms on the forecast, so we thought it was going to be a good day out on the water.
It would turn out to be anything but.
So it was around midday, we got the boat packed and headed out the inlet, and we headed out to about 120 feet of water, which is roughly 3 miles offshore. Surrounded by sharks. Lots of sharks out there.
But a threat far greater than sharks also lurks 3 miles offshore. The Atlantic Gulf Stream, a strong ocean current that ferries warm water up from the Gulf of Mexico.
And this Gulf Stream fuels a lot of storms. You'll see in this stream that the ocean waters continue to be warmer compared to the rest of the ocean, and this is the prime fuel source for many storms.
When ocean water is warm, storms suck up the heat energy, the way a straw sucks up soda, creating moisture in the air. The warmer the water, the more moisture in the air, and that can mean larger, more powerful storms.
Hurricanes can be right over the Gulf Stream for days at a time, just feeding off of this warm water. So even by the time these hurricanes reach Bermuda, or even upwards to Nova Scotia, where they're supposed to be weakening, it's because of the Gulf Stream that they maintain their strength.
On the calm seas, Victor and Brooke enjoy the sun,
Brooke, how we doing over here?
We are doing awesome.
oblivious to an ominous wall of dark cloud beginning to take shape on shore.
It was a perfect day out. It was sunny. There wasn't really a cloud in the sky. It was a perfect day out on the water. We fished for about an hour when I got to catch a sailfish. And during the middle of this catching of a sailfish, we started to see this storm coming from onshore. And it came really, really fast. The storm came so fast that by the time I had even caught the fish, the storm was on top of us. The first thing we felt is it got really cold. It probably dropped at least 15 degrees, and then the wind just started coming. The wind started howling, and then the seas just started picking up. This storm wasn't a normal storm. It was giant. It probably stretched at least 10 miles down the coast.
So normally when we see a thunderstorm, you can kind of see where it starts and ends, but this one, there was just no end to it. This thing was just building and expanding.
Winds from the Florida jet stream, blowing from the coast out to sea, grow stronger by the minute.
We were kite fishing, and you know, with the kite, it's really hard to reel against the wind.
Oh, your kite's about to go in the water.
And since this wind is blowing us now so strong, the kite actually ended up breaking because the wind was so strong, and we basically just abandoned the kite.
It's time to cut their losses. They need to get out of this storm now. On the Florida coast, a massive thunderstorm, fed by energy from the warm sea, suddenly fills the horizon. Alone at sea in a small fishing boat, Victor Lubin and Brooke Christ are trapped totally by surprise.
Normally, if a storm's coming, you have some time to prepare. You know, you see it coming, but this storm came within 15 minutes from being a perfect day out to us being absolutely scared about what was gonna happen.
It was just insane.
Yeah, we can't see land.
The storm was nearly as wide as the Grand Canyon. Making it even more frightening, it's blowing from the coast out to sea, meaning they need to head directly into the storm if they are to make it back to shore.
Normally, what I'd like to do is either run north or south along the coast to kind of outrun the storm, but we had no choice. There was no end to the storm. The safest thing for us to do was just go straight into the belly of the monster.
Victor and Brooke gun it for home. Straight into the 6-foot-high waves that crash over the boat.
It wasn't like we were in a giant boat. We were in a small 21-foot boat. So you want to keep the boat headed straight into the waves, because if you do go sideways, you run the risk of capsizing. So we had to go straight into the storm.
It's kind of a David and Goliath situation with our boat, you know, being David and these just monstrous waves being Goliath. And it wasn't just the waves. There's rain in your face. You could barely see the coast.
You can see land over there. You can't see land over here.
It was just a very scary, tense situation.
I can't see a damn thing.
We didn't know if we were going to run into a boat. There could have been a boat in front of us. We wouldn't have seen it. We wouldn't have known.
Howling winds, crashing waves, blinding rain. Just when they think it can't possibly get worse,
We must have seen hundreds of bolts of lightning. When you see it just striking every which way, there's no shelter around, it's really terrifying.
lightning is common off the Florida coast. High in the clouds, warm water droplets and cold ice crystals rub together, creating enough electrical charge to trigger a lightning strike. It's a deadly phenomenon that claims the lives of nearly 100 people each year in the United States, more than hurricanes or tornadoes.
The one thing that was running through my mind was just, please don't get struck by lightning.
There's lightning everywhere, and if the boat got struck by lightning, you're holding on to metal, and so you're getting direct impact.
It was a very tricky situation.
Terrorized by lightning strikes and blinded by rain, Victor and Brooke push their boat as hard as it can go into the unknown. There are no other boats on the water. They are alone against the sea.
We were probably running into the storm for 45 minutes to an hour, and it seemed like 3 hours.
We couldn't see 5 feet in front of the boat. It was freezing rain. I didn't know if we were gonna get hit by lightning. I didn't know if we were gonna capsize. I just had tons of emotions coming over me. I actually was crying. I cried, I was praying. I did not think we were gonna make it through.
I tried maintaining my composure because I knew how scared she was. I saw she was praying, I saw, she was crying. I just wanted to give her that sense of security, but on the inside, I was just as worried as she was.
After a hair-raising, hour-long push towards the coast, they finally make it to safety.
I remember finally making it into the inlet after coming out of the ocean. I just felt a sense of relief that, oh my gosh, we actually made it. We felt finally safe being in the inlet.
So a person who plans to venture out into the ocean on the day of perhaps severe weather, first and foremost, they should be looking at their local meteorology stations in order to assess for themselves, is it dangerous and is it smart for me to go out today? And if you are willing to take that risk, use the precautionary measures. Make sure that someone knows your approximate latitude and longitude so that if the Coast Guard needs to go out and find you, they will be able to do so.
In all their years on the water, Victor and Brooke have never been so fearful for their lives as they were on that day off the Jupiter coast. It was a day that would bring with it some hard-learned lessons.
One of the stupidest things we could have done is we should have had our life jackets on.
We were just so in the moment that putting our life jackets on was not the first thing that came to our mind. I learned that you can't take chances. The weather can change in a blink of an eye, and you always need to be prepared. We got lucky this time, and we did get lucky, and we survived, and so now we can prepare for next time.
I was changed by that weather. If I'm offshore and I see a thunderstorm coming, I don't take it lightly because I know that it could be another one of those superstorms. Don't take the weather lightly. Don't take the Gulf Stream lightly, because if you do capsize offshore there, it's not just the lightning, it's not just the sharks, it's not just the rain, it is the culmination of everything that just becomes a superstorm. There's no being a macho when it comes to nature or out on the ocean. The ocean takes what it wants when it wants.
When a hurricane hits, I really hope that you have evacuated and have heeded emergency managers. As meteorologists, we know what we're talking about. When the warning goes out that you should evacuate, go to a shelter that is designated by the government officials that is deemed safe. These are usually brick or concrete in structure, and these can withstand the immense forces of the wind, but also it's inland, so it's further away from the storm surge. In the event, though, that you are caught off guard and you have not evacuated, the best place you can be is inside. Put as many structures between you and the hurricane as possible. This allows for projectile debris from the intense winds of a hurricane to penetrate only one, maybe two layers of your house. But if you are further in, like an interior closet or even the bathtub, if you can put something over your head, like a mattress, you are safe in that situation.